Okay, Dave, what's the best advice that you have ever received?
The best advice I ever received was pain is temporary, pride is forever. So that just means like for whatever you thought, for however bad you thought it was going to be, just do it. And that means that like it started off kind of like in a more violent sense. It was more like for fighting. Like if you're going to be bullied, if you're worried about being hit, like, yeah, just take the pain. Whatever they'll do to you, it will heal. But the emotional thing of you not standing up for yourself, that's with you forever.
Yeah.
And then it began to move that way and like even things you just want to do. If you have a goal, but there's something holding you back, whatever it was going to take to overcome that, the pain of that will heal faster than you think. But the pain of not doing it and sitting in it for so long and festering it, that hurts way more.
Regret comes from that.
Yeah.
Would you say there's an example in your life where that, was really prevalent?
Yeah. My first fight ever. I was scared to fucking death. I'd never been hit in the face. Kids were hitting each other in the face. We were young, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and I just knew when it came time, like, just swing away.
That's
Pain
right,
is
like
temporary.
on Signs.
Right. Pain is temporary, but pride is forever. And it was a thing where even though I was scared to death, because I swung, I learned a very important lesson because I didn't win that fight, but you didn't have to win the fight. You just had to fight back. You just had to fight back, and that gave me now permission to come off my porch. That gave me permission to go to the rec center. That gave me permission to be out. You know what I mean? Versus there were some kids who never learned to swing, and as a result, they couldn't come off the porch. They in the house now. Oh, I like being in the house. No, you don't. You just can't come off the porch with these more aggressive kids. And I watched their world become a prison. In the house kids versus the outdoor kids.
Do you feel like that's something that you told yourself in moments where you were gonna act and you didn't want to, or is it something that made you act in situations? Is it more something that like hindered your action or encouraged you to act?
It was more to encourage the act. And the sad part is now that I get older, I have to learn to turn that off.
Okay.
Because now there's a problem with impulse control as a result of a lifetime of just going off of instinct. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fly.
That's good advice. I like that. That's good advice. Kind of be more. I mean, it comes from like, it's not like be more aggressive, but it's like you got to stand up for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not that you have to be more aggressive. Just stay in tune with it. Know that you're capable of it. No, you don't have to do it all the time, but be ready to do it and don't hesitate.
Right.
When it's, you know what I mean? Even if you're wrong. Oh, well.
Right.
I was wrong, but everybody saw, right? No one know. People don't do that to me no more. All right, cool. Like, that's why I always laugh when I see those World Star videos of, like, somebody spazzing out in, like, Burger King. Right. That's basically what they're saying. You know what I mean? When they, I don't give a fuck. Like, that's their way. Hey, everybody. Like, I was trying to be nice. I'm standing up. Did we all see it? Don't fuck with me. I'm not the one.
Everyone has a breaking point.
Exactly.
And it's like, once you get to that breaking point, then it's how you carry yourself after that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, also, how do you be a nice person and then also carry yourself in a world where you're respected? Like, it's very hard to, like, sometimes I feel like I'm so I'm very like giving and like caring and like nurturing and motherly in my life, but I also don't know how to like be assertive and like try to garner respect in situations at the same time.
You don't have
People
to.
mistake your kindness for weakness or something like that?
Yes.
Well,
Oh, no.
The thing is, if you're exuberating the good energy, then you end up having people who are willing to be aggressive for you. That's why people have security. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I am not going to carry a gun and shoot people, but he will, and he'll shoot for me. I mean, I'm not saying him particularly,
but I get the example.
That's the security guard aspect. Like, hey, listen.
Yeah.
These people are around me so that you guys will never, because you're all going to tempt me to lash out. You're all going to tempt me to do the most negative thing in the fucking world. We've seen it. We've watched someone like Britney Spears fall from grace.
Right.
Because everyone's poking at her, and then she, because she didn't have enough people to be like, you know what? Let me run over your foot. They ain't going to say shit if I run over the foot, but you run over the foot is a problem. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit.
I like that, yeah. Because in high school, I was funny. So I had guys that would fight for me. Oh, you got something.
Yeah.
I'll handle that for you.
Yeah.
Like one of my boys, Steve, used to go, the perfect problem solver is the revolver. You let me know, Derek. I was like, my God, Steve, it's okay. You ain't got to shoot nobody, but thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
That's weird too when they show love like that.
Yeah,
That's
yo.
how a dog shows loyalty.
Perfect problem
When he
solver.
brings
That
like
revolver, Derek. I got you if you need me. I'm like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
that's
Steve,
a,
slow
that's
down.
a dog showing loyalty. When he brings
community
a
college.
dead bird and throws it in the living room, like I did
It
that
does
for
feel
you.
so good though when someone offers to fuck someone up for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're just like when someone. It just feels like, wow, you love me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like a romantic. It's just anyone, like someone having your back, one of your boys, your friends, your parents. It's like such a meaningful action.
Yeah, because they're showing you loyalty, which is a fading feature in this world.
It's sad.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So if someone shows you they're loyal to you, you're like, holy shit, reward that man. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one. Derek, what do you think the best advice you ever received was?
It's two levels of advice. One performative, one for life. My mother told me my first piece of advice that I kind of always go by. She was like, it's okay to feel intimidated, but don't you ever in your fucking life feel inadequate. That's what she used to tell me. And I was like, yeah, because she was like, your inadequacy comes with you you fall into your intimidation. So basically, step over those hurdles and be who you are. Because you got an aura around you. You a prince. That's what she used to tell me when I was a kid. But basically, this confidence shit only works at 100%. So, always stand 10 toes down and go toward it because you're going to feel like a jackass if you don't. Mm-hmm. And that was one. And then Patrice O'Neal, rest in peace, gave me my other piece of advice when I just moved to New York. Within 2 weeks of me moving up here to do comedy, he said, write prolific shit, get on stage, and get the fuck out of my car. And I'll never forget that. Yeah. And I was like, that was dope. And then from then on, yeah, I kind of roll with that. 100% confident, right stage, get on the mic, and keep it moving, basically. If to get it the fuck out of the car, it's just keep on trucking. And then I guess, my boy Nori Davis gave me some more. Stay in your own book, but make sure you look up once in a while so you don't go crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
That's some solid. You guys, this is some solid fucking advice.
Yeah.
I feel like that confidence is so important in every element of life, no matter what you do, especially with comedy, especially with entertainment. Like, I know that your mom brought you up saying that to you, but what are some things that you do to maintain that in your life?
Well, I'm around a bunch of 6'3" and above, how's it? Tough love motherfuckers. All my friends we all come from this the Philadelphia cloth. So we speak to each other very stern, but very loving. Mm-hmm. So it kind of keeps you in line. I surround myself with no men. So if I'm fucking up, I got friends that go, you fucking up, right? And then they'll tell me, and then we'll tease you about it. And then when we get teased, the tease kind of strips away all the bullshit and leaves the great thing.
Which is a hard position to be in.
Yeah.
Because you dance the fine line between hater and good friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, whereas, like, bro, like, I'm not being a hater. We've known each other for a long time. I'm not steering you wrong when I'm telling you bugging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely not being a hater. That's being a good friend. That's like...
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes the people don't hear it. You know what I
Some
mean?
people's sensitivities will have them in their head going, oh, this motherfucker is his energy. He ain't my vibe. I need to get away from toxic people. They start putting on these little white people, little labels on shit. When you came up with me, motherfucker, you know what this is. We done slept in cars for this shit. It's no time for you to get sensitive now. You just, take it, apply it to your life, and keep it moving. If when I'm fucking up, I would do the same.
Right, you're doing a favor by telling someone something they could be doing better.
Because
like,
I think,
you're trying to help them.
I think the biggest thing, and this is my view on it. Other people might not agree. It might be a bit more harsh. But I'm like, hey, look, we're all trash. We're all garbage. We've all been trash. And we're always going to be trash.
Right.
So when I'm reminding you that we're trash, you're trash. Like, don't take it personal. Like, hey. Don't forget we're trash. Like, don't forget where we came from, and don't forget that this doesn't make us any different. We're still trash. You're playing yourself. You know what I mean?
So I generally like to start my podcast asking the best advice you have ever received. Sam, since you are so incredible, do you want to go first?
I don't. So I was thinking about that, right? And I don't know if it's the best advice because I feel like I've learned a lot by doing and watching others do, and like not repeating mistakes or the mistakes of others.
Wow.
I can't even fault him. He's right.
Do we have our soundboard?
Hey, he's the one sitting in the studio over at Sirius XM.
But I did get this. Is actually good advice that I got. There's a lot of really good advice in the wrestling world, right? And when I started working at WWE, I don't know, something had happened or I'd said something publicly and somebody just like came to me and they were like, Sam, just so you know, there's a little bit of heat on you for this. That means that like people are a little annoyed.
Oh.
I said, okay. And he said, don't worry about anything. It's going to blow over. Just no selling babyface and you'll be fine.
Just what?
And I went, oh, see what this means? No sell means don't react to anything. So like if you think people are saying something, if you think, just no sell it. Babyface means you're a good guy. You're smiling.
Right.
Hey, what's up? Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Nothing's going on here. Nothing's going on here. And I was like, wait a minute. If I just applied this to everything,
To everything in life.
everything would just kind of go away.
No sell and baby face.
No selling babyface.
That is pretty good.
Let's repeat this because I need to jam this in. Let's break it down again.
Okay, so step one is the no sell,
Okay.
which means you really don't react to like anything. Like, I
Okay.
mean, you know, if it's serious,
Sure.
if it's something that really matters, then yeah. But like,
And it comes from selling it. Like if wrestlers are in the ring and someone pulls a move on you,
Okay.
you have to help that guy by convincing the crowd that move was legit.
Okay.
So you're selling it to
right,
the crowd.
like if I hit, I'm not really going to make contact
yeah.
with the
But,
opponent.
yeah.
whatever.
If he just stood there, he wouldn't be selling it.
Right. So don't sell.
Sell it.
Don't sell
it.
anything. Don't react. Don't sell anything.
I love this.
Because that's why people do things in life. It's
To
because
get
of the sell.
A reaction.
They
get
want
the
the
sell.
sell.
Right? Like even on Twitter, when you see these things go crazy and somebody starts selling it,
No
it just
sell.
gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Don't sell it.
No
Never
sell.
sell it.
No
Don't sell
sell.
anything.
Joe Rogan sold it a little.
A little sell.
But at first he didn't, and it was
first- No,
nice.
No.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It was tasty when he wasn't selling
Once
it.
you sell
when he
it.
goes, I love Neil Young. I was like,
I know.
And then-
they were having none of that.
And then babyface.
and then tell
In-
me more about that.
So in wrestling, there's heels, those are the villains, and there's baby faces, those are the heroes,
Okay.
right? So like, I don't know, in the 1980s, Hulk Hogan would have been a big time baby face.
Yeah.
All the kids like him, train say your prayers,
I'm
eat
not
your
gonna.
vitamins.
I am not gonna follow any wrestling references in terms of particular people.
You've never heard of Hulk
I
Hogan?
have, but it's
Oh.
not gonna like. It's not gonna.
I mean, he's kind of a
enter.
heel now, but that's why I
It's
said
not
in the
gonna
80s.
enter. It's not gonna enter.
Okay.
I thought that was going to be the best advice you ever got. Say your prayers, take your vitamins.
Yeah, train say your prayers, eat
Yeah,
your
yeah,
vitamins.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know Hulk Hogan, but it's just not. If I'm being
But
completely.
like you get that in wrestling, there's heroes and villains.
Yes, I get that, right.
So do you like comic books?
Yeah.
That's not true.
Movies. There's always
Yeah,
a
you like
I know
movies.
that
good
they're
guy
heroes
and a
and
bad
villains.
guy in
Yes,
a
I know the
movie.
concept of
Like in He-Man, right?
Yes.
He-Man is the
Oh.
baby face and Skeletor is the heel.
course.
Like it's all baby faces
Oh, yeah.
and heels,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a baby face, you're just kind of friends with everybody, right?
Right, of course.
That guy's not a heel, that guy's a baby face.
Mhm.
Just walk around acting like a baby face in life and don't sell anything. And all of a sudden, I was dubbed for a period of time Sammy Switzerland. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm Sammy
Oh,
Switzerland
right.
over
Sammy
here.
Switzerland. Neutral.
Hey!
Neutral. Not for the Allies or the Axis.
Nah, just here to
He's
yeah.
Here for the
Sammy
hang.
Switzerland.
yeah. No selling baby face.
Sammy Switzerland.
And what's your
I don't
what's
remember
your
that one.
feeling on this?
I agree. That's pretty sound advice. Sometimes it's difficult
Yes, not
Because-
easy.
to be the baby face. You have to be smiling and nice and pleasant most of the time.
That's the part that you find more challenging than the no sell.
Yeah, because a lot of people put you in a position where you don't feel like being nice and smiling and saying yes. So yeah, that's probably the toughest part of the formula there, is being the baby face. The other part, yeah, it's pretty easy. Just, kind of don't get involved. I failed at that too, miserably.
I was about to say, yeah.
I had to sell.
You're not one that no sells.
No, I'm not a no sell.
You will sell.
Oh, I have to sell.
You're
It's
one of
terrible.
the salesmen of all time.
Oh, I'm out there with my briefcase, my fedora.
It's interesting. I feel like people. So, but here's the other thing. I think no selling baby face. This is great advice.
Yeah.
But then I also feel like people love wrestling.
People love wrestling. What's the best?
So I'm kind of left for my own emotions and my own like self-care, I don't want to react to shit like that. And if I do, I want to do it privately, right?
Oh yeah.
But I also am aware that like I also need to be a human, and people don't really want to watch like a robot.
Mm-hmm.
So I also kind of have to show who I am, because I can't just like keep everything private, because otherwise what's the point of like having a podcast or like doing stand-up?
Yeah, but this is like performance, right? Like a podcast is
But it comes from
ultimately-
truth. Like
It comes from, but you're performing.
right.
Character like Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, exactly.
Character.
You see?
Yeah.
I mean more like in your real life.
Okay.
Like you could,
Yeah.
sell to the moon when you're doing your podcast. I mean,
You're talking about life.
yeah. I've had lots of problems with people on radio shows that I didn't care at all. But it's like once you're here, it's like,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
sell.
Right.
And then once the show's over, that's when we know sell.
That was the fun thing about Radio Wars.
Yeah,
You're getting these battles with radio personalities that you really didn't. The battle was so the dumbest thing. It was over
But you
nothing.
don't actually
You can
care.
never even remember what they were about.
Huh.
No.
And then at the time they were these big things. Like, oh yeah, we get on the air and we're just gonna trash this guy. Let's own him with it. And then you're walking to your car in the parking garage or something. You're not going like, yeah, good, we trashed that asshole. You just don't even care about it anymore.
You could literally see that person in the
Yeah,
parking lot.
it's
like,
happened.
Hey, man. Hey,
Yeah, hey, what's up? Everyone kind of looks like, hey, what's up? Because you've been a prick.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. That separation's very difficult for me. Like I can't like
Oh.
I can't I could never be like, I fucking hate this person, and then be like, oh yeah, that was an act.
Yeah?
I mean, I would have to at least tell that person, like, I'm gonna say this.
Oh,
I don't
no,
mean
never.
it.
I think it's just assumed. I think everyone kind of knows.
That's not who I am. I can't do that.
And it takes away from the realism of the hatred.
I can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
I have had conversations with people where they're like, yo, that shit you're saying on the air? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, that was fucked up. And I'm like,
Yeah, well,
it was on the air.
it's on the air.
Like, what do
so
you...
It's not really
like, are you
real.
why are you bringing this
See,
into my
I feel
real
like that
life?
about stand-up.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm dating someone and they flirt with someone in the audience, I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'll never get mad at anyone for anything they say on stage, like, ever. I totally respect anything like that. But I don't know what, for me, if I say, I don't know.
But like, if you're on stage, right, and you're like dating somebody, you're like, oh, I hate my boyfriend.
Yeah,
And you have a bit around it.
sure.
Can you imagine your boyfriend then coming up to you after your set was over going, I didn't know you hated me?
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
don't.
Obviously, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
I
it
guess I
is.
just haven't put that in terms of, like, I have that established with stand-up, and I haven't brought it over to podcasting yet, maybe.
Yeah.
Now, a good point, and this is what I was bringing up earlier before the show even started, a guest that you and Jimmy had on that I had wanted to see. It was Scott Shannon.
Oh,
Now,
it was great.
We had ragged on Scott Shannon for a while over the course of the years on the Opie and Anthony show. We were
Okay.
all involved with it. It was kind of vicious at times, but with some humor in there.
Yeah, yeah,
and It was
yeah.
mostly fun.
Right.
And Scott seemed like the kind of guy that could take the joke and understand. He's been in radio for many, many years.
Right.
And he understood the dynamic that you kind of goof on each other, you poke each other. So then he was just on the other day on your show. Was that awkward in any way to?
It was so. I mean, I love it when people acknowledge it right away, like we're not pretending.
Right.
Because like you, as the person that did it, you never acknowledge it.
Of course not.
Because
Yeah.
I'm a coward. You know what I mean? You're not gonna take ownership of it.
Yeah.
But as soon as he walked in the door, he's like, "Hey, Sam, you're the one who was talking about the boat movie all the time."
Oh yeah.
And so he immediately acknowledged it, but he did it in good humor.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't want to break this, but I have to ask, because it's just part of my podcast, the best advice you ever received.
Oh. I don't know if it's advice that I received. I don't remember a lot of things that people tell me. I like to pretend that I told it to myself.
It can be just the best advice ever.
The best advice ever that I tell people
Okay.
after what I've learned from other people telling me things, specifically about sex and relationships, is I feel for the majority of my life that I was trying to make myself into a version of a person that people would be attracted to and that people would want to have sex with and that people would find sexy, rather than making myself into a version of myself that I find attractive, sexy, and want to have sex, and want to be in a relationship with. And so that's the advice, is just do what makes you most attracted to you and most respectful of yourself, and then yes, somebody will come. Of course somebody will come, and they'll like the most authentic version of you because you
Right.
haven't been lying this whole time.
Yeah, no, I think that's so great. It's like you are the embodiment of this person. Like you're the one version of you, and you
Yeah.
should be the fuck out of yourself.
Yes.
You're the. I mean, I think of us all as like part of God's mind together. You know, so it's like you're this one little part, and you're the part of God's mind that gets to watch. You're your target audience, right? You should be living for yourself, and if you do that, if you play the fuck out of your character, then naturally people are so much more attracted to you.
That
I love that.
That is actually amazing advice. I genuinely feel like when you become, I definitely have done the same thing in every way. And then like when you become the friend that you want to be, like when you're like, oh, I would genuinely be friends with myself. You know what I mean? Like when you're like, I am the person that I like, I like, then that's when things start happening.
Totally.
You know, when you're like, why aren't I famous yet? Why don't I have friends or a boyfriend? It's like, well, why don't you just start being a person that you like? And that's when things start happening.
Yeah.
Law of abundance too.
Well, it kind of reminds me. I've never been to a burn, but some people were telling me all about burns the other day, and I was finally listening. I think I never
Like a
really
Burning Man burn?
Burning Man, or
Okay.
there's a lot of like local ones and
Okay.
stuff all around. And I think I never really wanted to hear because I knew I would want to go so bad, and I was like, I don't have time for this. But now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do this. But there's this culture that they have of everyone bringing all of these things that they want to do or give to people. And I think if you're kind of always living your life in that, like, I would love it if someone painted my eyes into but into a spirit animal that I chose. So like I was watching this woman paint her dude friend's eyes into a sloth the other day, and I was like, what is that? And she does that. She started doing that. Now you get to stare into your friend's eyes and paint them and then put them in, like, I was like, I love that. And it's very like Burning Man type stuff, like all the things that they were talking about doing and like going around. And I'm like, if we live our lives that way, just like my sister writes thank you cards for just everything, and I love getting that. So I've started
That's cute.
doing my own thank you cards, and it is like, just trying to constantly be like giving, spreading that love. Like we all know we're confused about capitalism and communism and what we're but if we can just as much as possible actually just give away for free the ways that we want to, like, it's not just how you want to be treated, but it's like how you really want to treat other people, like,
Or like give compliments freely.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I was specifically brought up here on the Upper East Side where it's very like you don't show emotion, you don't tell people nice things about them. Like being nice is considered weak. And I recently have just started like not love bombing, but like love bombing people I'm already in very long, like my family, my friends, like my boyfriend or whatever, like just like showering people with stuff. I mean, you're so good and you did such a good job because like why not? It's free.
right.
And it makes them feel so good.
Well, I think when you're saying that you're worried it makes you sound weak, it's like you feel like you're worried that people might think that you're sucking up, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that now, but that's how I grew up.
People kind of take advantage of you sometimes. Like if you don't have enough of like a strength inside of you, sometimes people can take advantage of kindness. Like
Hell yeah.
and it is
Hot.
it is no, but it is like it's difficult. It's like that classic like people mistake kindness for weakness
Yeah.
sometimes. So it's like it like it's definitely like it's you know.
This actually brings me to the advice that I was going to say, which is actually very recently that I was listening to this podcast. I think his name is Jim Fortin, and it was like the 5 habits of something that'd be good for you. And one of them was just about assuming the best, and just really assuming the best all the time. I think actually that is the best advice. And so it's like when you assume that people are going to take your compliment as your confidence instead of your neediness. Assume that if you're nice to people, okay, occasionally some asshole might take advantage of you. For the most part, people are actually just going to spread that kindness on. People are actually just going to be happy for you to be that way. And if you have the confidence to assume that everything is going to be well received, people mostly live up to it.
Yeah. There was also in that vein a TikTok I saw recently that I really appreciated because I'm one of those like mind spiralers. Like I think people hate me. I get really nervous. Like,
Conspiracy, yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're like even things like they're jealous of because my cat is so gorgeous. Like the stupidest shit.
Oh, I want to meet your cat.
She's so gorgeous. She's not very nice, but
No one's jealous of anyone's cats, are they? Don't we just want to go hang with them?
yeah. But this TikTok was like, assume that if somebody has a problem with you, they will say it to you. And if they say nothing, assume that they're harboring nothing.
Because otherwise it's their issue.
Yeah. And
Let
I
it be
just
their
felt
issue.
that was such like a weight lifted off of me.
That's true. You know, I am really trying to adapt this because growing up in New York, like I grew up in Queens,
Yeah.
you do learn to always think the negative thing.
Sure.
You learn
Yeah.
you know what? Whatever. If someone says something to you that could have either been taken positively or negatively, if you learn to think, you know what, that was probably negative. Like you just learn to think that way.
It's self-protective, and I
It is.
understand
It
that.
is protective.
And I think
yeah.
that it probably did, just like all this kind of bullshit we harbor from, like that we build up from childhood. A lot of it was protective then, but now you need to learn how to let it go so you can trust others, even though your mom sucked or whatever. I think it's the same way where it's like that probably did serve you well in childhood, but now we're going into like the age of Aquarius or the feminine or something, and it's time for us all to be like, let's shift gears to assuming the best now. I think let's move on. I think as a people, whether that's the human race, Americans, whatever, I think it's time for us to just go like, yep, look, we don't want to be fools, but if we all do it together, if we all just kind of shift into this consciousness together of actually meaning it and actually, because it's like all things can be true. Yes, everybody has negative thoughts sometimes. Everyone sometimes thinks about like the ways that you're afraid that someone might be taking advantage of you or tricking you or getting you. You do have those thoughts sometimes of doing that to other people.
That's why you have
them. That's the karma of it.
exactly.
You think that way sometimes, but you know that you also, toward the very same person that you've kind of had those like dark thoughts, you also have all this love to them. You also, I mean, unless you don't, but that's on you to work through. But like I have that with some of my closest friends. I have these thoughts sometimes where you're like, oh wow, I can't believe, have I manipulated this situation into getting what I want and hurting them in this way, and I can't, or they're foolish and they're whatever. But I also feel an enormous amount of love, and there's also like 19 other versions of the truth that are also true. Just because you've had those thoughts doesn't mean that the 19 other thoughts that you have aren't more legitimate than the one darkest one. And so if we can forgive each other the fact that, sometimes we all think really gross things, really hurtful, disgusting things toward each other.
Jack off to Curious George.
Or whatever it is. Those little sweet Christians who wrote that only knew. But we also think all these good things. And so we just need to like put more and more faith in the 19 versions of the truth that are beautiful and wonderful, instead of giving that much weight to the possibility that there's darkness in all of our hearts.
I have another one now. Because this reminded me of my boyfriend has this saying that he just started saying to me, even though we've been dating for like 6 years. And it's like the first time he's like, you know, you got to feed the good wolf. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
I never knew what it was. I was like, because there was one day I got very down on myself about my appearance. I have like crazy body dysmorphia, whatever. And like, I was just like, I'm ugly. This is why I don't make effort. And then he goes, you keep feeding the bad wolf. Stop feeding the bad wolf. And I was like, what the fuck is the bad wolf? He's like, there's two wolves that live inside of you. There's a good one and there's a bad one. And if you keep feeding the bad one, he's going to get stronger than the good one. And like, just try to feed the good one and stuff. And I was like, you're right. Like,
I think there's 3 wolves though. There's the good, there's the bad, and there's the comedian wolf that's a little bit detached.
Yeah.
You got to feed the comic and the good one.
I love that
because
one.
that helps you, because you don't want to lose touch with the bad wolf. You need to kind of understand it, your shadow self, right? Keep that. And that's why I say if you make that into comedy instead of like dwelling in it, like if you think you're ugly, like make a joke about it. You know what I mean?
She does.
Of course. Right. But that's you being your best self.
Yeah.
Turning the bad one into the comedian, and then because you still need to have the angel and the devil on your shoulder, if you will, but just having a relationship with the devil where you laugh together.
You guys are both great, successful comics. Can you tell me a little bit like about, I mean, I literally could just sit here and soak up everything from both of you. I've admired your comedy since before I even started, which now I sound like a dumb fangirl, but what's the best advice you've ever, I'm like gonna blush because I feel embarrassed. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like I received a ton of bad advice early on.
A lot of bad advice, but this wasn't advice given to me directly, but I did hear it on a podcast when I first moved here that John Fish had in the tank, and he had a female comic on, and I wish I could remember her full name. Her name's Becky, and she's from Boston. But she said, go where the love is.
Oh, I have heard that. I've heard that as well, and that's
I've never heard it.
It's
Really?
such good advice.
Yes.
Prepare to be blown away.
It's like if you're getting no's from a certain place,
Yes.
it's just no. But then you've also found that there's other areas in your life that you tend to get yeses, and that you also enjoy, that you should really just go towards the yeses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, not saying like, it's not like giving up or anything. I wouldn't say it's in that realm,
No.
but like, you know, just think of all the comedy clubs in the city and that everybody has their eye on some of the big ones. And then sometimes you just get a no from it. And it's like you focus all your energy on it when there's so many other venues in the city that might be more into your style of comedy.
Yes.
And that you could just focus your energy on that instead of, you know, trying so hard for a place to like you, and they never will. And it's almost like that desperation makes them even like you less.
Yes, everybody's on their own power trip. But yeah, that's how somebody actually told me that it's same advice secondhand. I think it was my old roommate, Kelly Festuca. She must have listened to the podcast too. But she had explained it to me, like, if you go to a club, exactly, and like you always are trying to hang out there, you're trying to get in there, but they won't put you on the avail list, or they won't, or you're on, but they won't book you, then it's like, stop putting the time and the energy into that place. Take the loss of being like, well, I guess I didn't get in here, and then maybe go focus your time on, like, if there's an alt room that you love and you always do well there, then go spend more time there.
Yeah.
Do you think there's ever like a moment in your comedy career that was actually pivotal? Like, do things ever actually matter that much? Or do you think that maybe you spend time as a comic, like building things up in your head, like, if I got this, this would change my career entirely? Or is this just something that we tell ourselves?
I think there absolutely are moments like that.
There are a few pivotal, but now there's not. I don't think there's ever really huge wins. It's a bunch of small things leading up to years.
Well, it's like the day-to-day is the most important thing of any of it. It's like, if you're not like writing and performing every day, then you're not going to get an opportunity that could be life-changing for your career.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like acting, for example, which I also do. Toot toot. But it's like, I have to keep my acting game strong. I have to take my classes during the summer. I have to, if I have an audition, you have to audition regularly. Because if you just get an audition out of nowhere and you're totally out of practice, you haven't done anything for a year, there's no way you're going to nail the audition.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with stand-up. You have to be like working and performing every night. So then when you serendipitously do get a big opportunity that could help you, you're on the ball.
Yeah. Because I would always think it's like, remember like Jeremy Lin? He just kind of happened, they just put him in and then he had an amazing streak. It's like he was ready for that moment. So I feel like things are, sometimes you're never like the first choice, but they're like, okay, well, can you do it this week? And then they see that every time you fill in that you're just consistent, that that's where like things, I think, start to pick up.
Yeah, when people are like, oh, she's on time, she's well dressed, and she doesn't like scream at the wait staff.
Yes.
And she has a decent set. Like, let's put her on the avails. Yeah, like I remember I used to go to clubs and I would like sit in the back and I would watch people and I would feel like really bummed that I wasn't on. I would just have that feeling of like, put me in, coach.
Yeah, I can do this.
And then now that I'm kind of on the other side of it, I realize like, oh, it's not really necessarily about like the best person that's always going to crush. It's about like the people liking you, and it's about consistent. Exactly like Sarah said.
Being consistent. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I always start the podcast asking,
are you challenging me to move my microphone?
I want to know, Mom, the best advice you've ever received.
I don't know. It's really hard to think of something. The thing that's immediately coming to mind, which is not really like life advice, although maybe it is a little bit, was I was hesitant to take a job promotion because it wasn't really coming with money. And I was told by somebody, I think it was my old boss, saying, you know, you should always take a promotion, even if it's not, because it gives you like more experience and more opportunity and you're moving ahead. Even if you think like people are like, oh, well, you're not getting paid for it or you're not, you know, like taking on that new challenge, like always take on the new challenge. Unless it's so stressful that, you know, you can't deal with it and then it puts you in a really, really bad emotional state. But otherwise, like, challenge yourself to keep moving forward. Now, that's not really the greatest
No, that's good advice. It's so different than what a comedian would say.
What is a
Because
comedian?
comedians, they're just, their headspace is in a completely different place. You're saying stuff that's much more relatable, I think. That's great advice. What do you think a circumstance would be where someone would be hesitant to take a promotion? My perspective is if I got a promotion, I'd say, yeah, duh. Why wouldn't
Well,
I?
I think it was coming with a lot of responsibility and no money.
So it's like an
it's-
investment in your future.
Yes, exactly.
Everything I do is a lot of responsibility and no money.
Right. And it is an
This
investment.
podcast.
So do this. This is my advice. Do this podcast.
Yeah.
Because it's not just an investment. It's an investment in your future, but it's also mentally an investment in, challenging your brain in different ways, and you'll develop different ideas as you do it. And as long as it's continuing to give back, essentially, within your own brain or from other people, it's a good thing to do.
I have the best mom in the world. I love my mom. Oh, that's
I love
really,
my daughter.
That's
I don't
really
know
good
if you
advice.
noticed that.
That's great advice. Wow. That's
Really?
yeah. I think that's really, really good advice.
And there's probably such a more profound advice I've gotten over the years, but that
No,
was the
like
thing
take a
that
chance
just,
on yourself.
came
I
to
feel like
mind.
people say to me about podcasts because it's like, well, I'm taking it and making it about podcasts now, but I feel like people will say like, oh, what if it doesn't work out if I put all of this into it? And it's like, well, you can't believe that it's not going to. What is it?
So I always feel like it's not about like it being like a direct relationship. So for instance, I've always said that if you want to be a really good engineer, because I'm background in landscape architecture, if you want to be a great engineer, you should take an art class. And if you want to be a great artist, you should take an engineering class, because people who are in engineering think in a certain way, and they can take a lot of classes in doing the same thing everyone else is. But once you get into this other way of thinking, this other dimension, you start to bring it back into your everyday world, and then like you start thinking about what you normally think and what everyone teaches you in a completely different way. So, and then if you say you're an artist, and then you start to think about the structure of the world in a different way, you know what I mean? Like, so those things can give back to the way your brain functions. So, what if it doesn't work out? It doesn't apply, because it's always working out, because your brain is always, growing from the different experiences. So if it doesn't work out, it did work out anyway.
I agree. Oh my God. If it doesn't work, it's not even possible. It is always going to work out.
Yeah. I mean, it may not work out as a podcast for your, you may not end up getting on whatever, taken up.
Natalie's podcast. No, I'm kidding.
But you might not end up being invited to Natalie. Like, look, I took a chance on having a child, and just for the hopes that I would get on a podcast eventually. And look, okay, it took me 27 years. It was a little expensive, but hey, it worked out.
No, but what you gain from it may not even be what you expect.
Right. I actually liked you besides all that. I didn't even think so.
You didn't even know.
I didn't even know. I thought, well, what if she's a monster? But
She was a little bit.
But, hey, so was I, I'm sure. But like.
Okay, so I agree. You know
That
what you
came out
told
of
me
left field,
one
right?
time. What you told me
Yeah.
was you should take a different way to school every day, or a
Oh,
different way to
yes.
work every day. Like you should go a different way. I think about that when I take Rory to the dog park. I think I should walk a different way every time, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
I do think about that, because you notice if you do the same routine every day, you won't notice, like you just become so used to everything that you don't even see it anymore. Whereas if you go somewhere new, it's a different route every day. But the dog park is very close, so it's hard. You got to go way out of your way.
It's like 2 blocks. So do you think it's time for you to give me another piece of advice?
Another piece of advice. Well, I mean, if we're on the topic of running, one of my favorite pieces of advice. I mean, I love advice around pain because pain is a very big part of ultra running. There's one woman, she's like a legendary ultra runner. Her name's Ann Trayson. She's credited for saying just something very simple, that it doesn't always get worse. Which is so true. Whether it's running or life, like, hey, sometimes it sucks right now, but it might get better. Like in the race you were at, my knee went out at mile 15. I ran until mile 22. Then I had to break a stick in half and use it as a cane from mile 22 to 27. And then magically, to close out the race, I threw down my fastest mile and ran the last 3 miles of the race because it doesn't always get worse.
In what ways have you been able to use that for like mental health?
Running or that advice?
That advice.
That advice, I mean, every situation does come to an end. That's kind of how I see that. Like whether it's a brief period of pain, a brief period of depression, it does eventually end as long as you allow it to. If you start to let the moment consume you, then you can fall into this funk where you're in there for a while. But like my whole life has been not sitting in the depression and the pain. Even like you mentioned, I was a college athlete. My whole life was baseball. I had a scholarship to play baseball in college. And then my first ever game in college, I blew out my elbow very badly. Like my elbow tore in half. I had to get reconstructive arm surgery. I never played baseball again. I worked every day of my life to get there. And when that happened, instead of just sitting in the moment of the depression, I got a notebook and started writing jokes and started stand-up while I had a cast on my arm. Because I knew you can't just let life consume you. I mean, you can, but like another thing that Gahan says is just because you're in a situation, you might not be the one who put you there, but it is your responsibility to get yourself out of there. A lot of us are in situations that we don't deserve to be in, that other people put us in, that life put us in, but the only person who gets yourself out of it is you.
I feel like you're such a good person for me to be around because I have this perspective of hating everyone and thinking everyone's a bad person, and you have just a little bit more faith in humanity. You're like, no, not everyone is terrible, Natalie.
Definitely not.
You're like, not everyone's a monster.
I talk shit with the best of them about people, but at the same time, I do think I could find redeeming qualities in most people.
Yeah. There was that book that I liked all the quotes in the book that your grandpa had, the crazy cryptograph book.
Oh, yeah. My 90-year-old grandfather does these wild cryptographs where it's just a bunch of letters on a page that are not in order. And it's not like an unscramble where you just turn 4 of the letters around and it makes a word. You have to just look at the letters and think this A is actually a T. I don't know how he does it. It doesn't make any sense, but it's the reason he's still like not fully gone, I think, mentally.
Well, will you read my cards?
Yeah, I'm going to read. Okay.
Also, I always ask what the best advice you ever received was.
The best advice. Well, that's a good question. And I guess it's a toss-up. I mean, you are a comedian, so maybe I should.
It could be about anything.
There's the advice I got from my very dear friend after my first husband died, very young. And then there's, I think probably the one I'll share with you is the advice my first gynecologist gave me. I mean, you guys talk about vaginas on this show a lot. Like, I feel like you always talk about vaginas.
Me?
I mean, when I see your clips, it's like this woman that was doing the Kegel exercises, and she was giving herself orgasm. I mean, I feel like, we're women. Like,
we can talk.
You have men on this show, but it's
Give me both. I want both.
Well,
I can't believe you just have 2 nuggets and I wouldn't get one of them. That'd be crazy. I would just be walking around without a nugget of advice.
I have a lot.
I could be living better.
I have a lot.
Oh my God, I want all of it.
I mean, a lot of advice I didn't take. That was probably good. But I went to my first gynecologist and she said to me, the most important thing about being a woman and a good woman is wiping down. And I was like, what? And when you pee, you got to wipe down. And but I'm telling you, like that one piece of advice, It goes deep. It actually covers everything that we talked about. Wipe down. You wipe down?
I do wipe down. Jesus.
Okay. So like wipe down.
So yeah, don't bring all the bad stuff up.
Yeah. And
Okay.
you gotta keep that shit down. You gotta wipe away the shit.
I guess it's sometimes emotionally I wipe up.
No, never. You gotta wipe down when you pee. Always.
Are you just
and
talking
she also
about pee?
said treat your vagina like you treat your face. That's the truth. That's a good one.
I don't wash my face.
Don't treat your vagina like you treat your face. Listen, we're women. This is important. I mean,
so wait, how are you supposed
that's the center of everything.
No, I agree.
Like everything.
So wipe down. Okay, is
So
this
wipe
just
down.
about literally?
No, I mean,
Okay, yeah, wipe
yes,
down.
literally wipe down, but look at like what it avoids if you wipe down. Metaphorically, wipe
doesn't boil
down.
up.
Wipe down. It's like wiping a
Yes,
you know,
I agree.
it's like this is my space.
Yeah.
And okay, so I think the very best advice I ever got, because I obviously after my first husband passed, I was young. I was 27, and devastated. And some months had gone by, and I kind of wasn't doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't shake. I mean, it's not like you have to shake it, but I really was just like I lost so much weight. I wasn't able to concentrate. I just couldn't move forward.
Yeah.
And so a good friend of mine, he like pulled me aside and he said, listen, grief is a real thing. But at one point, and he said, and I've been through it in my life, at one point in life, you've got to wake up in the morning, and I do this, and make a choice to be happy.
That's good advice.
That's it. And it changes everything. It's a choice. It goes back to the book. I mean, I hate to be a broken record, but it's like life's kind of simple. And it's not always easy to do that, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
And everything changes. If you make that choice, then you walk into your day different.
I love you, Jen.
Yeah.